Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, the big story today is tariffs, and rightfully so. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not like hot and trendy and cool. It's not like sports or sex or rock and roll, but it's something that affects your wallet, affects your money. These economic issues have impacted your life far more than whoever won the Grammy last night for whatever the heck else, and whether or not you could see some slippage or see-through dresses or whatever. This is the stuff that affects your bank account. And the media pull on this it's so hacky, but it's fun to see when you apply hacks, like political hacks, people who are so biased they can't see straight, and you put them in a non-subjective setting. Like the Grammys, anybody can say, well, that was the best album of the year. Well, that wasn't. Beyonce totally deserved that. I don't think she did. That's all subjective. You can't really prove anyone right or wrong. You come over here into the nerdy world of spreadsheets and tariffs and taxes and economics, and these people just beclown themselves constantly. And what I find particularly enjoyable about the tariff stories in the news and how it's being covered is how much they are totally destroying their own economic principles like the other 364 days a year. If you're not like a deep economics nerd, imagine Marilyn Manson quoting the Bible to win an argument. It's what the economic comparison would be. So I think I can describe this for you. So let's start out with how so many of the people who are criticizing Trump's tariffs, the MSNBCs, the CNN, the Good Morning America, they're right in two ways, but it's two huge ways. Number one, yes, you're right. Increasing taxes on something, and a tariff is just a tax on imports. Increasing taxes on something does either make it more expensive, maybe less abundant, or both. And number two, even if you don't raise taxes on poor people themselves, the indirect cost of increased taxes on entities that they do business with gets passed along to them. They're admitting these two principles. All right. So what does that mean in all these other facets? Well, hang on. Since tariffs are just a tax on imports, it is a legit argument to say that it'll otherwise lower the standard of living for anyone who buys those imports, right? So that's the formula we're working with. They either buy less of that product or buy less. They have less money to go buy other things. So if it just does that tax on imports, what about other taxes? Well, same thing. And that's huge. Now, taxes come in all kinds of different names, like a fee. That's a tax. If you go to the DMV to get your registration renewed, you have to pay what was that? What did I pay last month? Like $73 or whatever here it is in Texas. That's a tax. That's money that they take from you and it goes to the government. But anything, taxes, fees, tariffs, licensing, leases. So what happens when Team Blue says they want to make big, evil corporations pay their fair share? Do they mean less in taxes? No, of course. They mean more in taxes. They want big corporations to pay more in taxes. So the same logic applies to tariffs as it does to all taxes. If you raise taxes on corporation, it is a legit argument to say that will otherwise lower the standard of living for anyone who does business with corporations. They either buy less of their products or get to buy less elsewhere. And the crucial thing to remember is this logic that applies to tariffs, therefore taxes, actually applies to any and all government interventions into the free market that increase costs. So it's not just taxes and tariffs. Every regulation, every permit, every license, every fee, it has the same effect of lowering the standard of living for the least among us, the middle class, and even the upper middle class. If you're a multi-millionaire, your standard of living is not going to get shook if eggs go up to $6 a box, or if your washing machine doubles in cost. But for the rest of us, the least among us, poor, middle class, and even upper middle class, this is a big kick in the teeth. Here's the kicker. That exact same logic and rule applies to inflation. So all you people that are upset and admitting that tariffs will lower the standard of living for the least among us, so will inflation. Are you concerned about balance in the budget? Where's that package? Where's the scaremongering about that? Why don't you go find some people to stick a microphone in front of them? Look, this is just a poor single mom, and I don't know how to get bucket. It's the same thing. Congrats. You're now philosophically bound to free market economics. Well done, guys. You just accidentally admitted that I'm right this entire time. I mean, not I didn't invent it. Adam Smith was right this entire time. So I hope they followed their own arguments and they start demanding decreases, I should say, for corporations for the same reasons. Remember when they wanted to raise taxes on corporations? What were you saying? What was I saying? What were other people on WBAP saying? That is going to lower the standard of living for the least among us, unless you don't do business with Walmart. But follow that. If that logic does apply, and they are admitting it here with the tariffs, then the next logical step you need to be pushing for a decrease in taxes across the board, maybe even getting rid of the income tax. Because what do you get if you have income tax? You get less income. It works everywhere. You should be demanding a purge of licensing requirements, a slashing of regulations, the elimination of giant federal agencies, basically everything Doge and Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing right now. This is what you should be asking for. You should be asking for a decrease in health inspections and building codes and gas tax, property tax, Medicare tax. Basically everything but a luxury tax has this effect. Even those little stupid fees on your cell phone bill that just kind of add up. You should be asking for the end. All of those have the effect that these people who are so concerned about the tariffs. Same rule applies to these. You're not concerned about that? You're not going to do another story tomorrow or maybe on the 6 o'clock news about, we just realized this whole thing about tariffs is going to crush the standard of living for the least among us. Now we're really pushing for corporate income taxes. I don't think we're going to see that. What does that mean? It means they're hacks. There's a reason the founding fathers specifically included the income tax. And of all of these imposed costs, taxes, fees, tariffs, permits, regulations that I just mentioned, the targeted tariffs are probably the least onerous because they're the easiest to get around. A 25% tax on avocados from Mexico doesn't mean we're going to be paying 25% more for all of our Mexican avocados. It just means we'll probably buy some more from Chile, or maybe some farmers will turn up some dirt and start growing some more in the valley in San Francisco, or maybe in the RGV down here in Texas. You can get around it. There's options. There's trade-offs, substitutes. So yeah, tariffs can be an economic drag on the people, but that's exactly what makes them such an effective bargaining chip in diplomacy. Mexico already relented this morning. They're sending 10,000 troops to the border in exchange for a 1-month pause. Well, will the tariffs work ultimately? Maybe, probably. It's too soon for us to declare victory, but make no mistake, anyone saying that they're already a failure, they're lying to you. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. That's what I think about tariffs. Next, you're going to hear from a tax analyst from Bankrate about how these tariffs might affect your wallet. Kimberly Washington's next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sports fans, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. This is the week of the big game. It's coming up on Sunday, and the free square is now live. Well, I guess technically it's not a free square. Patrick Mahomes, one of his statistics, the square is 0.5 passing yards. So if he gets one passing yard, boom, that's a winning square. All you do is make a lineup of 2 to 6 players for the big game. You look at a statistic line and you pick more or less. Well, Saquon Barkley rushed for more than, right now it's at 112.5 yards. If you think he's going to get more than that, you pick more. You take your free square with the Patrick Mahomes 1 yard promotion, and boom, you've turned some fun that you're having just watching the big game into a little extra cash. Do it with the money we give you too. Download the Prize Picks app. If you haven't done it already, get on it. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP, and with your first $5 play, you get $50 in promo cash. Promo code WBAP gets you $50 in promo cash with that first $5 play. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Your thoughts on the inflation, on the tariff battle, the tariff tiffs. I'm surprised that hadn't been picked up in the headline. Tariff tiff between Trump and our neighbors. We already have Mexico relenting. Just since lunch, Justin Trudeau's come out and said that he's doubling down and he's not backing down and he's not going to, okay. So Canada's acting like a tough guy. Slow down, country with a population less than that of Texas. But let's ask a tax analyst from Bankrate, more specifically, how will these tariffs and the battle around tariffs affect your money? All right, here's Kimberly Washington. She's a tax analyst with Bankrate. Perfect person to talk to as we get in the middle of all this tariff debate. Now, I like this being in the news because this is one of the more intelligent debates that we get to have in the public sphere without people getting their feelings hurt. There's nothing too emotional about this because really a tariff is just a fancy word for a tax on imports. What does the common person need to know about how tariffs and what's going on now could affect their wallet?
Wow. So one of the things I just want to start saying, there's been some changes just as early as within the last few hours when it comes to the tariffs. We know that President Trump has campaigned, and he stated that he will increase or impose, rather, additional tariffs on these countries. And so with that, over the weekend, we saw that he imposed tariffs on on Canada, Mexico, and also on China. But with that, that's about 25%. But as of today, now he's having talks with Mexico. He's also planning to talk to China again, and also Canada. So this all may change as we're speaking right now. But just kind of for someone who's listening or thinking, well, how would this impact me? Number one, a tariff will be, of course, imposed on goods that's imported into the U.S. And so that could be something that could be a little bit more costly for consumers. So that's something that you do want to keep in mind. But this is like an ongoing thing right now because things are changing by the minute.
Right. And, it's really hard to set your watch by this because he doesn't actually want 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. He wants them to change some of their other policies. And this is just the hammer that he's using to make it happen, is what it sounds like.
That is correct. So he's doing this as more of a negotiating tool. So like we say that this might even change. This may even go away, but we have to kind of keep our eye on it and just kind of see what's going to happen. But then again, something else that you just want to keep in mind, some experts are saying that, hey, of course, this will hurt small businesses. It may hurt, of course, consumers. We saw that the stock market today has, of course, reacted with this news. So we just, again, we'll see, because this is more than likely, possibly, that this will change pretty soon.
Well, Kimberly Washington, I saw on bankrate.com that this doesn't sound very intuitive, but if the tariffs stick, especially on China, this could cause your auto insurance to go up.
Well, that could be a case too as well, but not just auto insurance. We're talking about small goods. We're talking about a lot of different things when it comes to tariffs. And that's because, of course, a lot of the goods that we enjoy as Americans, they too come from many of the different countries that these tariffs are being imposed on. So it's going to be costly across the board, not just one thing, but all different things. But again, like I said, we just have to really wait and see because right now it is pretty uncertain.
Well, I'm a guy who is a huge Walmart fan. I'm in there far more than I should be, but I know probably most of the stuff that I buy from Walmart is on an international boat at some point. How worried should the common man like myself be?
A little bit worried, right? Because just as you mentioned, all of the goods that's coming in from Walmart and all the other stores that you may visit, and even small things that you may even purchase online. Small businesses, big businesses, you can expect that if these tariffs stick, that the prices of these goods will continue to increase. And especially another thing you want to keep in mind, if you are a small business, you want to start thinking about different ways and kind of keeping your eye on the news because, of course, this could, too, impact your bottom line.
So if the tariffs do stick around, especially from China, I'm thinking because they'll be able to resist a little easier than Mexico and Canada. How adept do you think we will be at finding alternatives to China? They've been such a manufacturing base. Can we not start building more plants in India and other places that haven't been tapped yet? And is the timeline short enough for that to help?
I would say, number one, that if the China, and one thing I just want to point out, when you speak about China, we know that Trump has already stated that when it comes to China, he's going to impose higher tariffs than any other country. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. We know that the U.S. relies a lot on imports from China. So that's the second thing to keep in mind. So right now, when you think about getting goods from different places, that would be kind of a bit challenging in the short term, maybe in the long term. So that's something that you do want to keep in mind. But the everyday consumer, they are expected to get hit hard if these tariffs are expected to stick around.
Well, at what point do you expect to see some of these prices go up in the stores? Because, it hadn't hit the retail level. The tariffs have just been on for, a week or so. But when will we see prices go up if they stick around?
I would say that's to say again, I think it's still going to be I'm going to just side on our eye of caution saying that it's going to be uncertain. And the reason why, because this new information just came out today to say that, hey, there are talks about this. Trump is actually meeting with different countries to talk about just kind of stepping back on the tariffs. That could be a strong possibility that these tariffs are not going to go forward. So we just have to wait and see. So I don't really think if he does have these talks and things do kind of come to a halt, we may not have anything to worry about. So we just kind of have to wait and see.
Well, Kimberly Washington, another thing Bankrate does a good job keeping an eye on is tax issues. We're now officially in tax season. Anything different or weird about this tax season compared to past tax seasons that the person needs to know about?
I think this tax season is quite similar to the tax seasons of the past. We have just the normal things that's changing when it comes to like standard deductions, the amount that you can put into an IRA contributions. Those amounts are changed each year. But this year is quite interesting. That's because President Trump is now coming back into office. And his first term he passed, which was called the Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017. And just as fate would have it, all of these different tax issues they're set to expire at the end of this year, 2025. So this gives him an opportunity this year, of course, to extend some of those tax law changes. But this tax season within itself, everything pretty much is still the same when it comes to last few tax seasons.
Well, the stock market's been kind of shaky as of late. Whether or not the tariffs work out in our favor, it's been my observation that the market doesn't like uncertainty. Should we be expecting maybe a little bit of a pullback, if not a correction?
I would say so. Definitely a pullback. And just as you mentioned right now, the market has been shaky. If you check this morning, there's been market sell-off as a result of the tariffs and the news. So if these tariffs do stick around, you can expect that. But if something's to change, of course, we can see that be better positioned.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the home builders that are, they have this whole house to build, but if you can't get one thing, then you can't finish the house. And I bet you they're really watching this. All right, Kimberly Washington, thank you for your insight. Where do we find your work outside of WBAP?
Definitely, you want to go to bankrate.com. You can find more of my information there. And so you can see some of the articles I'm writing. I'm following everything that President Trump is doing when it comes to taxes at this time.
All right, Kimberly Washington, good chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next on the James Show, J.D. Vance was asked about the tariffs on Sunday Morning Futures. Maria Bartiromo on Fox News yesterday morning. We'll continue our heady talk about this because this is going to affect your wallet. But you know what? I don't think that you're going to be hearing about tariffs after about a month or so of this. It looks like Mexico's already getting the message. Canada, how long can y'all really resist? I mean, we're not going to miss Crown Royal that much. But details coming up. You'll hear from J.D. Vance next. If you have any comments on whether or not you think this tariff war is a good idea, 800-288-9227. You can be an amateur economist on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Stick around. We have a lot of good show coming up. If you're going to be here around the 4:30-ish segment, we're going to play Dead or Alive for 2 tickets to the Totally Tubular Festival. Actually, I remember didn't we do this last year? This year it's going to have some bands that you've definitely heard of. Right Said Fred.
Oh, my God.
What? Don't laugh. Why are you laughing? Men Without Hats is going to be there. And I don't think that they're going to... I don't think they're going to be wearing hats. Some band called Haircut 100. I don't exactly know what that one is. Is that a band I should know? Did they have like a one-hit wonder? What? Love Plus One? Do I know that song? Actually, I know it when you sing it in my ear. Well done. Give yourself back those 4 points you messed up last week in the Jarrett interview, the Bowling for Soup interview. Yeah. Because that's what people think of when they're like, where can I get to the heart of the Right Said Fred audience? And apparently the promotions crew at Cumulus said, well, the James Show, obviously, if you want the hot heat of the Right Said Fred fandom, WBAP. Okay, I get paid to say things and I just say them, okay? Back to news that affects your wallet. I enjoy watching the fact that tariffs and the tariff talk and this economic discussion that's born out in the public sphere. I like this. I find this so much more satisfying than, whether or not WNBA players are underpaid or where people who are confused can go to the bathroom and all these other, so many of the things that the headlines are so wrapped upon, I just don't find important. This is super important. This actually affects your wallet. This is why you got a raise, but you have the same standard of living over the last 5 years. So J.D. Vance was asked about this by Maria Bartiromo, Sunday Morning Futures, on Fox News early yesterday morning while you were getting ready for church. Here's a piece of that interview about tariffs.
These tariffs will go into effect tomorrow.
Yep.
25% on Canada and Mexico, 10% on China. Are you expecting retaliation?
We'll see what happens, but I think, unfortunately, the retaliation has already happened. The problem with this whole idea that they're going to retaliate is they have already been taking advantage of America for decades. The retaliation is Donald Trump saying no more. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore, and I think it's important the president is doing what he's doing.
Yeah, okay, so we have the gauntlet being set. He didn't... It's not like Maria Bartiromo was baiting him. She was a somewhat friendly interview. But I just want you to remember those words. If you're flipping through the news, you're going to hear people just histrionic about how these tariffs are just going to crush the least among us. And we've already exposed how, you're not especially wrong. I just wish you would recognize these same economic principles and all other facets of taxation and regulation. But also, how do these people still have a job? Right? If you were this wrong at your job over and over, would you still have it? Because even when you get out of the other, like, sexier headlines, like a Jussie Smollett or something, even when it comes to just like economic predictions and economic headlines, these people's records are terrible in the legacy media. The same people telling you right now that Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's about to wreck the economy. He's going to send us all to his tailspin, and he wants to destroy it. Why? I don't know. Probably to hate, because he hates minorities and baby Jesus. I don't know. But remember, for all the people saying Trump's tariffs here will be devastating, look at how their other policy predictions worked out. Did the Inflation Reduction Act from Joe Biden, did it reduce inflation? Because these people told you it would, and then inflation went up. And it still hadn't gone back down to where it was before the act was passed. So no, you guys were terribly wrong on that. Why would you trust the people who were wrong on that to be right about this economic move? When they told you that, we had to elect Joe Biden because Donald Trump's going to kill the economy. Joe Biden can rescue the economy. And then we walked face first into a recession. These same people who are telling you that the Trump tariffs are a terrible idea were the same people that said a recession's not going to happen. And even when we did have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, they just changed the definition of recession and be like, see, we were right. No, you weren't. People are terrible at economics. Did the Trump's tax cuts in 2017, did it hurt the economy? Because they said it would. Did it reduce revenue to government? This is going to blow a hole in the deficit. No, revenue went up. They said the opposite. And you can just go back. Go back. We did Biden's big economic policies. We did Trump big economic predictions. Even going back to Obamacare, did his economic rescue plan keep the unemployment under 8%? No, we passed it and it went above 10%. The media, the news, the same people telling you bad things about the tariffs now were wrong about that. They were wrong about Obamacare reducing the cost of health care. They said it would. They were wrong. So if they're telling you, if you can turn on MSNBC or really NBC, CBS, ABC, Good Morning America. I watched a Good Morning America segment this morning that just had me howling laughing. Don't worry. If they're telling you the Trump tariffs are going to destroy the economy, then we're about to be headed for the Gilded Age. We're about to have streets paved with gold because these people have been so wrong, and not just like a little off, like 180 degrees in the wrong direction about everything economic. I marvel how they still have their job, and I marvel how they haven't just changed their worldview at some point going, man, sure, it does suck being wrong about every prediction I make in the economic sphere. Maybe I should change my worldview. No, don't change it. Just keep being wrong. We'll keep making fun of you. 800-288-9227. If you got any comments on that, we'll talk to Spencer McGowan of Net Worth Radio on what he foresees the economic impact. Someone with a much better track record of economic predictions is coming up on the James Show. Also coming to town, Luke Bryan is going to be at Dos Equis Pavilion June 20th. He's one of the contests we have going on at WBAP.com, or you can text the word SONG, 800-288-9227. Text the word SONG because it's Country Song Came On tour. SONG, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Did you have a good weekend? Your answer is going to depend heavily on whether or not you're a Mavericks fan. What? I love hearing the updates on how the people are so mad. Because I heard the story when I woke up on Sunday, and I thought, oh, man, well, I hope Anthony Davis works out and maybe we can get a good draft pick. There are people out there who they've just let it wreck their whole day. They sound like they went and posted something on Twitter and went and kicked their dog and punched a wall. Just shotgunned a Monster energy drink, then put their fist through drywall. It's not that big of a deal, y'all. Not that big of a deal. Not going to affect you a whole lot. What might affect you a whole lot more than that is what we've been talking about on the James Show, tariffs. And to give you a look at some of you do-it-yourself investors, Spencer McGowan's coming back on the James Show. Let's see what he says about all these tariffs. Now, since I woke up this morning, Spencer, the tariffs that were put on Mexico have been delayed for a month because President Sheinbaum said, okay, we'll send 10,000 National Guardsmen to our border to help secure the border. And so, look, are we already seeing this kind of work, Spencer?
Well, you recovered about half of what we'll call the Orange Man Bad tariff meltdown, because the Dow was 45,000 on Friday. It falls 500 points in the afternoon session when it was clear that the tariffs were going to be imposed. And then it fell another 600 this morning, going below 44,000. Now we're back up pretty close to 44,500, meaning about half of that decline has been erased.
So Canada looks like they're doubling down. Justin Trudeau said about lunchtime that he's not backing down. What do you think that's going to do to us?
Well, in this case, I do want to go back to 2018 because that's your most parallel scenario. Trump's putting tariffs on. The Fed was tightening at that time, so it made it, the market was worse because of the Fed tightening. But you'd get 1,000-point drop in the Dow just because there was a new tariff imposed or there was a new negotiation started. And I think this is going to be very similar. Now, on the inflation question, I went back on CPI. If you look at all 4 years Trump was in office, it was around 2%, and inflation actually fell a little bit the following year, 2019. So it didn't appear to have a huge inflationary impact.
Well, not to be a nerd here, but people are really misusing that term inflation. Tariffs do not increase the amount of money that is in the money supply chasing the same amount of goods. They're conflating that with price increases.
Yeah, Rheem water heaters, they're made in Mexico. Well, this morning, I don't know if they rescinded this or not. This morning, one of the people a client that works for him, he sent to us a 16.7% increase, saying tariff impact. I don't know if they're going to take that back or just leave the increase there because those are made in Mexico.
Yeah, well, the uncertainty is also going to be an issue because now the tariffs were on for a couple days. They got paused today. They may be back on after a month, and I don't expect. I don't see how Rheem just sits quietly through and does nothing through that. So this is going to be tough for the businesses that are affected by this. Will it hurt the people listening?
Well, from an investment standpoint. The big issue back then was the Fed tightening, and when they stopped tightening, market made new highs, and the CPI inflation didn't really go up. It turned out to be just a series of negotiations, and China has already announced, please take us back to the agreement we signed with Trump in 2020. Like they're already going back to what he got from them in 2020 with those negotiations.
All right, so for people who are do-it-yourself investors, any moves they should be making right now, Spencer?
Well, if we get a 10% correction, I'd have a buy list. How about that? Just make your target list, and when you get a big down day or an official correction, pick out the ones that you want to own.
Well, that assumes we have cash on the side.
Well, that's the second part of the equation. Get some cash on the sidelines. A lot of clients. And this is true when you're in a bull market, everybody's happy and people tend to stay fully invested and wonder if it's time to pile into NVIDIA, where raising tactical safety by taking a little profit is probably the right thing to do, especially, 45,000, we were pretty close to an all-time high. You're within 1.5% of that. So I would say next major rally, I'd use each rally to raise a little cash, make a target list for the next time the wheels come off the go-kart.
Spencer McGowan, what was on Net Worth Radio this weekend?
Oh, we did DeepSeek, okay?
Yeah, the Chinese AI.
Yeah, and we put this on the website, all the different apps and who does them. And our favorite, and Alex brought this to us, my co-host, Perplexity. And you can type in there just about anything, and it writes great articles. It did one on tariffs before we spoke. So Perplexity seems to be the most useful app, and they're not going to take all your emails like the Chinese DeepSeek.
I haven't even heard of Perplexity. Thank you very much, Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio. How do they find you online?
Oh, just networthradio.com.
That easy. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, aren't we all kind of do-it-yourself investors? If you don't have a financial advisor already, you're a do-it-yourself investor. And if you say, James, I don't have a whole lot of investments, well, then you're doing a terrible job at being a do-it-yourself investor. 800-288-9227 if you have any comments on the economics here. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the illegal immigration protests. A bunch of them continued around North Texas over the weekend. I was going to play you some audio, but there's cuss words in all of them, so I'll just tell you about it. And also, I'm going to ask you, if the Trump supporters were acting this way, the Tea Party movement or people in MAGA hats were acting this way, how would it be reported on? You think it'd be reported on just a little bit different than what you're hearing right now? We'll talk about that next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.